trouble and death in the Middle East. Fighting erupted quickly when Syrians allegedly fired on Israeli farmers operating tractors. Israel used tanks, mortars, and aircraft to counterattack. Israeli Premier Levi Eshkol said friendly foreign powers will understand the situation.
In May 1967, the leaders of the Soviet Union took a step that would change the map of the Middle East. The losers would be their own allies. It all began with a false report from Soviet intelligence. Anwar Sadat, Speaker of the Egyptian Parliament, was in Moscow for talks with Soviet Prime Minister Kosygin. It was a routine trip. Egypt was now firmly in the Soviet camp. Sadat was seen to his plane by the Deputy Foreign Minister.
The minister took Sadat aside. He said Israeli troops were massing against Syria. He asked him to report this at once to Nasser.
Egypt's president, Gamal Abdel Nasser, was the hero of the Arab world. If Israel was massing troops on the Syrian border, Nasser would be expected to act. He sent for his chief of staff and instructed him to find out what the Israelis were up to.
I went to the border between Syria and Israel. I found nothing unusual. So I asked to see the latest aerial photos of the border area. They showed me photos from the previous day and the day before that. I studied them, but I still found nothing.
The Chief of Staff found nothing to back up the Soviet report. But then the Soviet ambassador came back to us. He said Soviet intelligence had reconfirmed their report. Israeli troops really were massing on the Syrian border, and the situation was very dangerous.
Soviet diplomats spread the alarm throughout the region, even in Israel, as the Prime Minister and his wife soon found out.
It was 2:30 in the morning. A secretary came in looking sleepy. He said, "The Soviet ambassador is down in the lobby. He's all dressed up, very formal, and he insists on seeing the Prime Minister right now." I said to Eshkol, "Let's receive him in our pajamas."
Our ambassador gave Eshkol a telegram from Kosygin. Eshkol offered to go to Moscow to discuss the regional situation.
The ambassador was angry. He said, "You are massing your troops in the north." Eshkol said, "We can go there now. We can go together to the Golan border. You'll see we haven't mobilized anything." The Soviet ambassador said, "No."
At that time, Soviet leaders believed that America was on the run in Vietnam. Some in the Kremlin now sought to weaken America's influence in the Middle East, even at the risk of another regional war.
We believed a war could bring us political gains. Even a stalemate could bring us benefits. Egypt had our backing, both political and military. We thought their forces would demonstrate the benefits of Soviet support. So we were confident that the balance of power in the Middle East would be altered by a localized war.
In Cairo, Nasser had put his armed forces on alert the moment he received the Soviet report. If Moscow's plan was to provoke a war, it seemed to be working.
The Russian report escalated everything. We felt obliged to move troops into the Sinai. From there, we could retaliate against Israel if Israel attacked Syria.
Abdul Nasser did not want a war with Israel. Abdul Nasser was thinking of his image in the Arab world. So he put on a show of strength using the armed forces. Marshal Amir wanted to attack Israel right away.
The Arab media had been criticizing Nasser. Some countries had accused Abdul Nasser of hiding behind the United Nations.
Since the Suez War of 1956, United Nations troops had provided a buffer on the border between Egypt and Israel. Now Nasser ordered them out. The eyes of the world focused on a small harbor at the edge of the Sinai Desert, Sharm el-Sheikh.
Headquarters wanted to expel the UN troops from Sharm el-Sheikh. I told them, if we do that, Egyptian troops will have to take over at Sharm el-Sheikh. We will then be obliged to close the Straits of Tiran. That will mean war.
A blockade at the Straits of Tiran by Egypt could lead to war, because the straits at the foot of the Gulf of Aqaba controlled Israel's only trade route to the eastern half of the world. Nasser, in the name of Arab solidarity, was going on the offensive.
Our armed forces are ready for war. The Gulf of Aqaba belongs to Egypt. There is no way that we will allow Israeli ships to pass through. The Jews are threatening war. We tell them hello and welcome. We are ready for war. But there is no way we will give up our rights to the Gulf of Aqaba.
In Israel, the people prepared to defend themselves. Their Prime Minister, Levi Eshkol, summoned his cabinet and military commanders.
I told him, until now, I was not sure what was going to happen. But after the Egyptians closed the straits, I'm sure the situation will develop into a war. The straits are a casus belli for us, and I told him firmly that this will be their end. This will be their grave. We commanders told him, we have no choice. We have to mobilize. We have to launch an attack within 72 hours. If we give the Egyptians more time, they will pack the Sinai with more and more divisions.
The generals saw Israel becoming increasingly vulnerable.
The Chief of Staff, General Rabin, was very worried. He smoked a great number of cigarettes, and he ate nearly all the nuts and raisins in the little basket there. And he was very worried not because he doubted the result of the war, but because we were really very unprepared for war.
Rabin asked Abba Eban for a diplomatic solution.
Rabin had said we were really not prepared for war. And second, there should still be some attempt to avoid it by exercising warnings and pressures upon the Egyptians. And then Mr. Eshkol sent me a note saying, what are you doing here?